Olá pessoal, tudo bem? Estou aqui num cenário diferente hoje, mas mesmo assim estou aqui para anunciar que hoje chegamos no quarto episódio do documentário Mentes Brilhantes. Hoje nosso episódio vai falar sobre um grande físico também chamado Stephen Hawking. Então, pessoal, se você ainda não acompanhou os episódios anteriores, eu vou deixar aqui embaixo na descrição desse vídeo o episódio 1, que fala sobre Galileu Galilei, o episódio 2, Isaac Newton, e o episódio 3 falando um pouquinho de Albert Einstein. Então, se você ainda é novo e não se inscreveu, se inscreva aqui no canal, acione o sininho de notificação para que o YouTube possa estar lhe avisando assim que sair vídeo novo. E o mais importante, deixe o seu like, seu comentário, para que a gente possa atingir mais pessoas. Está bem? Um forte abraço então e até o próximo vídeo. Stephen William Hawking nasceu em Oxford no dia 8 de janeiro de 1942. Foi um físico teórico e cosmólogo britânico, reconhecido internacionalmente por sua contribuição à ciência, sendo um dos mais renomados cientistas do século. Doutor em cosmologia, foi professor lucasiano emérito na Universidade de Cambridge, um posto que foi ocupado por Isaac Newton, Dirac e Charles Babbage. Foi, pouco antes de falecer, diretor de pesquisas do Departamento de Matemática Aplicada e Física Teórica e fundador do Centro de Cosmologia Teórica da Universidade de Cambridge. Seus trabalhos científicos incluem um teorema sobre a singularidade gravitacional no âmbito da relatividade geral, em colaboração com Roger Penrose, e a previsão teórica de que os buracos negros emitem radiação, frequentemente chamada de radiação Hawking. Hawking foi o primeiro cientista a estabelecer uma teoria da cosmologia, explicada pela união da teoria geral da relatividade e da mecânica quântica. Ele foi um defensor fervoroso da interpretação de muitos mundos na mecânica quântica. Hawking alcançou sucesso comercial com vários trabalhos nos quais ele discute suas próprias teorias e cosmologia em geral. Seu livro, Uma Breve História do Tempo, permaneceu na lista de mais vendidos do The Sun Times durante 237 semanas. Em 2002, Hawking ficou em 25º lugar na pesquisa da BBC sobre os 100 maiores britânicos de todos os tempos. Em 1963, Hawking foi diagnosticado com uma forma de início precoce da doença neuronal motora, também conhecida como esclerose lateral amiotrófica, ALS, ou doença de Lou-Gehrig, que o paralisou gradualmente ao longo das décadas. Mesmo após a perda de sua capacidade de falar, ele ainda era capaz de se comunicar por meio de um dispositivo gerador de fala, inicialmente através do uso de um interruptor de mão e mais tarde usando um único músculo da bochecha. Ele morreu no dia 14 de março de 2018, aos 76 anos de idade, na cidade de Cambridge, depois de lutar contra essa doença durante mais de 50 anos.
No living scientist has shaken the foundations of physics like Galileo, Newton, or Einstein. But among those who have advanced cosmology's frontiers is a once lazy student named Stephen Hawking. Today, he holds the same chair in mathematics at Cambridge University as Isaac Newton.
I was born 300 years after the death of Galileo. I hold the same job at Cambridge as Newton did, and I work on Einstein's general theory of relativity. Of the three, I feel closest to Galileo. He followed his nose, and was a bit of a rebel.
Stephen Hawking is born in 1942 in Oxford, England. Like Galileo, Newton, and Einstein, as a child, he is fascinated by how things work. Yet at Oxford University, Hawking hardly works at all. Instead, he relies on his extraordinary facility with mathematics to coast through. Hawking spends most of his time socializing and on the river with his rowing team.
By all accounts, Stephen Hawking was not the kind of person destined for greatness.
At college, Stephen was not the hardest of workers. Stephen himself says that in his entire undergraduate period at Oxford, he only worked about 1,000 hours, which is an hour a day or on average.
Hawking is bored and apathetic. Nothing seems worth working for. Yet a tragedy is about to strike that will turn a bored intellect into a passionate mind. In 1962, Stephen Hawking has just begun to study cosmology as a graduate student at Cambridge University. But signs of illness are becoming too difficult to ignore. A slight speech impediment, difficulty pouring a beer. Doctors tell Hawking he has ALS, commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The regions of his brain that control motion are wasting away. There is no cure. The 20-year-old student learns that his body will become paralyzed. His breathing muscles will eventually seize up, suffocating him. Doctors say he has just 2 years to live. Hawking falls into a deep depression.
When Stephen was first diagnosed as being ill, he really didn't expect to live more than a year or two, and therefore there didn't seem much point in even completing a PhD.
But inexplicably, his disease progresses more slowly than predicted. He meets Jane Wilde, the woman who will become his wife, and he finds a purpose. I dreamt that I was going to be executed, he writes. I suddenly realized that there are a lot of worthwhile things to do if I were reprieved. Now Hawking begins working hard for the first time in his life. And to his surprise, finds that he likes it. By the early 1970s, Stephen Hawking is a well-established cosmologist. He is also in a wheelchair. Yet he is remarkably stubborn. Nothing will keep him from living a normal life. He has children. He works intensely. And he is about to make a great breakthrough that will extend Einstein's theory in an unexpected direction. Einstein's theory of general relativity predicts the motion of very large objects such as galaxies. But it cannot explain the behavior of the tiniest subatomic particles that are the building blocks of the universe. Their motion is only predicted by a different theory called quantum mechanics. And to the frustration of Einstein and every physicist since, the two theories appear completely incompatible. Yet Hawking is brash enough to tackle the impossible.
When Stephen Hawking was doing his pioneering work, there were two armed camps. They hated each other. They never talked to each other. On one side were the true blue loyalists, the ones who held the flame of Albert Einstein burning bright. On the other camp were the quantum theorists. They dealt with the world of particles, subatomic particles, hundreds of them, thousands of them, and they didn't talk to each other. They had different mathematics, they had a different language, a different physical picture, and here comes Stephen Hawking saying, I'm going to try to marry the two together. Well, that was heresy. No one had done that before.
Now Hawking asks, what happens if you look at a black hole, a massive object, but zoom in to its smallest scale?
Hawking also, like Einstein, has an incredibly good nose. That he has an intuitive feel for interesting questions to ask and how to ask them.
Black holes are the most bizarre and extreme prediction of Einstein's theory of gravity. Theoretically, if a mass is extremely concentrated, for instance, if a star were compressed into a ball just miles wide, the space around it will become so warped that gravity will keep everything from escaping, including light.
A black hole is a region of space in which gravity is so strong that light can never escape. It's like a one-way membrane in which things can go in but nothing ever comes out, including light, and that's why it's called black.
Now Hawking attempts something his colleagues assume is impossible. He uses the equations of quantum theory to analyze what happens to tiny particles trapped by gravity on the edges of black holes. By now, he can no longer write. If he was an experimentalist, his career would long be over. But Hawking has rarely even looked through a telescope. And for theory, all he needs is his brain. Like Newton and Einstein, Hawking has great powers of concentration. He reruns long, torturous equations again and again in his head, checking and rechecking his calculations.
He tends to think in pictures, and he tends to start with some idea that he thinks he is right, and he goes from there.
He has to rely upon keen insight and leaps of logic to compensate for the fact that he cannot check every single line.
He just has a tremendous drive, a tremendous determination to get to the bottom of things.
Hawking's results shock him. Black holes are not completely cut off from the rest of the universe as once believed. Instead, their edges shed tiny particles, now called Hawking radiation.
The arguments are so compelling, everyone now agrees that black holes must give off Hawking radiation. The radiation will carry away energy and mass, and the black holes will slowly evaporate and eventually disappear.
Hawking has shown that, like water in a boiling kettle, black holes slowly evaporate away. Just as importantly, he's proven that in one particular case, general relativity and quantum theory can be fruitfully combined.
My discovery that black holes are not completely black, but should glow like hot bodies, was the first example of an effect that depended on both the large and small scale theories.
When the result came out, it was so beautiful. It just had that feel about it. Just talking about it was like rolling candy on the tongue.
Finding a theory of everything, a deeper theory that unifies Einstein's equations and quantum mechanics, is now the holy grail of physics. It would explain the origin of the universe. And Hawking has created new hope that this ultimate puzzle can be solved.
It's clear that Stephen's discovery of black hole radiance was an important piece of the final jigsaw, even though we don't really know what the final jigsaw is yet.
Who were the greatest physicists? They were ugly ducklings, rebels, and nerds. Consumed by deep intuition and unafraid to question the most basic assumptions.
It does take a strong ego to say, well, that's not so tough. I can crack that. I mean, the odds are really against you. There's no guarantee that there are any answers out there that science actually works. You're really taking a huge chance.
Their stubborn persistence revealed deep laws of nature. But their quest remains unfinished. And such brilliant minds come along only once in a great while. Yet who knows? It's possible that the next brilliant rebel is already among us.